Hello, and welcome to another edition of Thinking Like a Lawyer.
Hello!
You missed your mark at best.
I mean, I thought I would try to keep you off center, a little, keep you guessing, maybe think that I wasn't going to do it, but I don't know. I think it's funnier this way. Your withering stare does not work on me. I've known you for a very long time.
The problem is the withering stare is not something that comes across in the podcast
That's why
medium.
I felt like I needed to explain that that's what you were doing, because I don't want people to get the misunderstanding that I am.
I'm Joe Patrice from Above the Law. That is Catherine Urbino, also Above the Law. You're listening to Thinking Like a Lawyer.
Utterly contemptuous of us.
Yeah, you're listening to Thinking Like a Lawyer, where we talk about the week's legal news, or at least the fun stuff from it. So how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
Excellent. Yeah, plugging along as one does. We've got a reasonably action-packed show. I don't know about action-packed. Maybe that's maybe I'm
overselling
Yeah,
it.
maybe that's an oversell. We have some interesting things to talk about real quick. We also have some sponsors. So why don't we start by just getting into them and then move into the topics. So let's kick it off this week by hearing from our friends from Lexicon.
Here's a message just for the attorneys out there. So you passed the bar, joined a firm, or even built your own. Now are you finding out that you're doing more administration than actual law practice? Lexicon can help. Lexicon is a legal services and technology provider with over a decade of experience streamlining administrative tasks like timekeeping, HR, billing, client intake, and more, so you can focus on maximizing billable hours and increasing client satisfaction. Call 855-4LEXICON or visit lexiconservices.com/go to learn more.
Okay, what do you want to talk about today?
I mean, something that has definitely been in the news a ton is our former mayor, Rudy Giuliani.
Right. Yeah. So Giuliani's been in the news. So, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The FBI raided his offices.
That happens. It was like a dawn raid, which is FBI's usual MO when they go after folks. If you didn't know that, I have a story about somebody getting raided from the archives Above the Law that I always like about.
Do you?
Yeah, no. God, I'm trying to remember what the title of it was.
Criminal That I Am?
Well, that's the name of the book that I was reviewing, but the story itself is what I was looking up. But, you could also make banter when a lawyer becomes a criminal, which is about the book Criminal That I Am, which obviously people can go out and buy too, but it talks a little bit about
something
the
that
FBI.
Rudy Giuliani may know a lot about soon.
Yeah, well, so that's actually the point that you were going to make, so I won't step on it.
No, I think it's very interesting. So obviously, Rudy Giuliani his stuff was raided. There's a lot of stuff that people are talking about whether or not this will implicate the attorney-client privilege, what kind of all the documents they might have collected. But fundamentally, it struck me. I mean, we knew this was going to happen since January before that, because it was the Trump administration, right? We knew during the Trump administration that the federal government was considering a subpoena of Rudy Giuliani. And so this was a sort of a known thing, and it seems very surprising if there's anything that they found that's worthwhile.
Yeah, I think the way to phrase that, like in a radio context, how you could phrase that to be a little bit punchier would be if you had just jumped in and said what I think is the exact phrasing you used pre-show. So we talk about some of these things pre-show, so to let you in on a little of the background. And
I don't even know what phrase you're talking about.
Almost always she says it more punchy and direct in the pre-show, and I'm always so when she doesn't do it.
But you know what it is? You're the worst because you give me these eyes, this
direction. Yeah,
it's not direction. It's just a freaking stare, and it's completely not helpful.
Well, I can't talk.
I'm telling you facts, true facts, not helpful, and then I wind up just kind of spinning my wheels and rambling on because I have no idea what you're trying to communicate with you don't even have a particularly piercing stare, BT dubs.
Whoa.
Yeah, I went there, and you just kind of looking at me like I don't even know what you want. And so I just keep on rambling, hoping that I'm stumbling upon the thing that you wanted, as opposed to just say it.
It comes across really terrible for me to say it, because obviously then I'm captured saying it on the radio too. I don't have an earpiece.
I don't know what the thing you're trying to. I don't even know what it was.
I think her point was, put aside whether or not Giuliani needed to be. So Giuliani's being raided large, and a number of electronics were seized. This seems to be in connection with his dealings with Ukraine, which is, as Catherine alluded, something that we kind of knew was being looked at by the Department of Justice, because known collaborators of Giuliani have already been picked up by the feds in this whole discussion, and which brings
story a while ago about whether or not it was going to happen under the Trump.
Right. Yeah. Even the Trump administration seemed to be looking into this. But this brings us to what Catherine's tag for this was, which is, if they find anything in the.
Yeah.
I didn't know
what you were getting at, Joe. If they find.
See, this is I work so hard to try and give these.
You absolutely do not. You absolutely do not. Number two, it was my idea in the first place. And just
yes, I know. And I was trying to.
But you have in your head some vision of what you want the podcast to be, or how it's supposed to go down. And you don't let me in on this fact at all. I'm supposed to just figure it out on the fly.
Well, I think at our pre-meeting, when you said this is what you were going to say, I was ready for you to then say it.
No, but no. You have in your head this very specific vision. You have to phrase it the same way I phrased it before, as opposed to being there's any one of a bunch of ways I could phrase it.
I feel like we've gone completely off the rails here. Yeah. You were going to say something, though.
I was.
Yeah. Do you remember what it was?
If they find anything during this raid, then Rudy Giuliani is just a terrible criminal.
I think I put that aside. I think he becomes the single stupidest lawyer in the world.
Yeah. Before this stuff is evidence, he doesn't have to keep it.
Well, all right. So let's break down some of the places where this makes him the stupidest lawyer in the world. It is not as though he is a trust and estates lawyer who has been thrust against his will into this world. Mm-hmm. He basically made his career inside the Southern District of New York's U.S. Attorney's Office.
He certainly knows the inner workings of how these dawn raids go.
Dawn raids. He knows that when his accomplices, we'll start using that term. People that he's worked with, but we can move to accomplice at this point. When his accomplices have already been picked up for this stuff, he has to know that this is coming. So if there's still any evidence on any of these devices, then he's clearly the dumbest person in the world. Because this is, and we're not, let's be clear, we are not advocating for spoliation here. Yeah.
No. And that's what I'm saying. But before,
come on.
But before there was a subpoena, there wasn't evidence. They were just his documents.
Yeah.
Right? So why is there anything left to find?
Right.
This is literally a news story.
Yeah.
During the Trump administration. It is now May, or I guess this happened in April, but it is several months later. What are you waiting for?
Yeah, exactly. And again, not advocating people committing crimes, but you know.
But that's why.
Come on.
But be a better. If you're going to be a criminal, be a decent one.
Be the best one you can be.
Be the best kind of criminal you can be.
Yeah. Well, and on top of this, he also has been going on the media, and who knows if this is. Look, I'm of the mind that a lot of these folks go on TV and say things they know not to be true because it's part of the
shtick, yeah.
Part of the shtick. But it almost seemed like he believed it, which is extra scary because he started talking about how they seized everything except the Hunter Biden disc that I kept saying they should grab. And it's well, one, that's not how warrants work. You don't get to just say to the feds, you know what? I know you have a warrant for the following 6 devices, but while you're here, might I interest you in a few other things? That's just not how that works.
Just the whole notion of might I interest you?
Yeah. Look, I know you came here for these 6, and it's gonna kill me, but I
can let you have this.
I can help you out.
Help me,
One
help
time
you.
only. Yeah. No, to believe that would show a complete failure to understand
Right.
how the law works, especially criminal law, especially the federal government's, law enforcement division,
Sure.
which is the thing he used to run.
Yeah, I mean, that is the really shocking part is, and I don't know, there's probably lots of speculation people can have as to why this has happened the way it has, but look, this was his job, right?
Yeah. For a while.
That's like how
For a
he
long while.
Like that's how he became whatever version of famous he was before he became mayor.
If it
right?
sounded weird just there, right when I was talking, it was because I was rubbing my face with my hands in
sheer frustration.
with the stupidity of this entire,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, listen, you were in your past life as a lawyer, you were a criminal, white collar criminal defense.
Yeah,
attorney.
you paused after the word criminal for a little too long for my liking. But yes, I did white collar defense. Yes,
plenty of room to
I did
make
white collar
choices
defense
in your
yes.
life.
Go on.
No, but so you have a better sense than some standard kind of corporate lawyers would have about how this all goes down. And it's shocking to me that anyone who listen, I never practiced any version of criminal law, and yet I watch enough Law and Order or have in the past to know that everything that Giuliani did was not very clever.
No. I mean, look, I guess it's clever not to delete evidence because people will find it, that you did it, and that makes you look worse. But I mean,
Sure.
Also keeping evidence, not a smart criminal move, just a general matter. It
is quite a thing. And now he's going on all the talk shows talking about it.
He now says Alan Dershowitz is going to help him out. So,
Of course he is.
adding more high quality firepower to this game.
If you could go back to, I don't know, 2001 or 2002 and kind of whisper in your own ear this little tidbit about America's mayor and the then incredibly respected law professor Alan Dershowitz, I don't think I would believe me.
Yeah, that is true. It wouldn't take. Actually, that should be the gambling line. Should be, how many years back would I have to go to say Rudy Giuliani's going to be raided by the FBI and Alan Dershowitz is going to be completely batty and trying to defend him? Yeah, no,
before it becomes believable, right?
I mean, 2001, obviously that wouldn't seem logical. By 2005, would I have bought it? No, probably still needed some more time. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
This is a good little game.
Yeah,
you've
it's
come
at
up with a good one
it's
here.
at least the 2010s, probably the teens.
Yeah. I mean, look, I don't want to gamble on this specifically, mostly because gambling is just not a thing I'm particularly good at. I don't know if you know why. And that's because I went to law school to be a lawyer, not an accountant. Yes, we're talking about taking advantage of Nota, a no-cost IOLTA management tool that helps solo and small law firms track client funds down to the penny. Enjoy peace of mind with one-click reconciliation, automated transaction alerts, and real-time bank data. Visit trustnota.com/legal to learn more. Terms and conditions may apply.
I bet you're pretty proud of yourself, huh?
I'm super proud of myself, yeah. You know who should not be proud of themselves? The California bar.
Oh.
The California bar exam, there were several bar exams over the last cycle that have embarrassed themselves. The most being the ones that ran in person, like, say, Colorado, that ran in person trying to claim that we've got this all figured out. Everyone's going to be safe.
Right.
And then immediately afterwards,
listen,
for COVID.
Right.
Yeah.
I was going to say, for posterity's sake, right, maybe in a few years, people will also still be listening to this podcast. But,
Yes.
it was in the middle of COVID.
Yes, it was in the middle of COVID.
We're talking about the 2020 bar exam.
And Colorado, yes, that's a good point. And Colorado thought they could get away with it and went into the newspapers right before it started and shots fired over anybody who doesn't think we know how to do this is just a whiner and blah, blah, blah. And don't worry, they had a COVID outbreak because that's what happens when you do stupid things. Anyway.
Listen, do stupid things, get COVID prizes.
Yeah. So that was the worst. That was the worst.
Mm-hmm.
Then the slightly better tier were the people who tried to do things online. Unfortunately, the online exam, the way in which they chose to run an online bar exam, some states out of necessity. It's
Right.
not like Indiana had a better plan, but their plan fell apart, so they created kind of an open book. Hey, do you actually understand what's going on in this question? Email us back.
I tell you, I think that was probably the best
It was
option.
absolutely the best option, and because it actually made the bar exam the thing the bar exam is supposed to be, a test of minimum competency.
Right.
As opposed to this weird scaled nonsense that is sent to them by the NCBE, which is a nonprofit organization that turns, $5 to $7 million in profit every year. Anyway, that organization, though, pushed a lot of its membership into I guess. Who knows how they try to spin this.
Sure.
But a lot of states into a platform that required them giving more millions of dollars, or at least hundreds of thousands of dollars each, totaling up to millions, to online software providers who could make all this happen for them. And
right. So
what
I think
happened?
they're trying to do it turn on a dime.
Yep.
It was an emerging situation, which is why Indiana came upon this via email system,
Yep.
which actually was fine.
Which actually was fine.
Right, and it didn't have the sort of the nanny state issue, which a lot of the other issue that happened, I know, with the software is that there was cheating issues with it. You want to?
Well, no, yeah. Well, they said there were. There were not. There's
issues with the software.
As it turns out, the software felt that, well, first of all, that black and brown people shouldn't even take the test because it refused to let them. It would immediately flag them as cheaters just because its facial recognition couldn't figure it out.
Problematic and offensive.
Which is a thing that we all knew was going to happen and talked about ad nauseum. But don't worry, the bar exams rolled forward with it anyway. And then on top of that, they had the issue where California received back a series, let's just call them false positives because that's what they ultimately were, that said a full 1/3 of people who took the exam were cheaters.
Right, which is not accurate.
Obviously cannot possibly be true.
Cannot possibly be.
Their response to this was to assume it was true and ask all those people to prove the negative that they were not cheating, which is probably not the way in which this should have operated. As it turns out, fewer than 50 cases throughout the entire of the California Bar Exam Administration were shown to even reach the point that they might have been cheating. But don't worry, they said hundreds and hundreds. But it was a whole mess. As it turns out, this is long story short, we get now to the California state auditor has now looked into the decision-making of the California Bar Exam and worked out that the California Bar Exam, shocking absolutely no one, breached tons of protocols in order to set up this system. This system that its buddies at the NCBE were pushing, that its vendor that it works with other times were pushing. Then they breached a bunch of procurement rules in order to force this decision rather than look at any other option that might have been more sound because, death drive to keep doing this test.
Ian, if you don't have a bar exam, how are you even a lawyer?
Yeah, which is dumb. Look, to some extent, I will say, I get California's problem in that they allow non-ABA sanctioned schools to exist in their state. They're just
seems
Cal
like you have
sanctioned.
that problem there.
They're just Cal sanctioned, and those folks have to go through some sort of test. And, obviously, since it's not ABA sanctioned, you're nervous about those folks becoming lawyers. Don't worry, they're not nervous enough to shut down California sanctioned schools. They're just nervous enough to force those kids to go into massive amounts of debt and then not pass the test, which is worse. But anyway, it's a whole mess. Obviously, they breached this. The penalty for this seems to be non-existent. It seems almost as though the penalty was, we're going to publicly point out that you failed to follow the orders, which, I mean, I guess we're all pointing and laughing, but that's about all that we have on them right now.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, the whole bar exam situation was really one of the legal industry's black eyes from the whole COVID experience. I mean, listen, nothing was great about. Nothing has been great. Nothing continues to be doing particularly well right now. And as we're hopefully coming towards the end of the COVID experience, but it does definitely seems like that was a particularly bad black eye for the legal industry.
Yeah. Hopefully it wasn't a black eye, because if it was, the facial recognition software would probably assume that you didn't
You're a cheater.
manage to take the test properly. Yeah, and don't worry, we're going to have more of these before it's all over. Experts in the field of exam technology publicly said, this won't work, you will have the following problems before they did it. And
then
instead,
what do you
they just
know?
rolled
We had
forward.
all those problems.
Yeah. But I mean, the NCB needs to make its money somewhere.
Wow.
It sits on something like $117 million worth of assets or something like that, and turns $5 to $7 million every year, pays its executives large
Handsomely.
six-figure salaries. Yeah.
Jeepers.
Yeah.
Jeepers.
But don't worry, it's nonprofit. So
Nonprofit.
Yeah.
I mean, so is the NCAA, but
So is the NFL.
Yeah.
Technically. If I had to do all over again, I would have done the part of law where you learn how nonprofits work and then done that forever, because that seems to be a lucrative way of making money.
Indeed.
Yeah. Anyway, but instead I did what I did and had to deal with the ups and downs of the regular workaday legal industry. Actually, on that note, have you ever wondered how law firms weathered previous economic downturns and came out stronger on the other side? LexisNexis Interaction has released an in-depth global research report confronting the 2020 downturn, lessons learned during previous economic crises. Download your free copy at interaction.com/likealawyer to see tips, strategies, plans, and statistics from leaders who have been through this before and how they've reached success again.
Good job there. That was seamless on that one.
Well, fair enough. We're a little short today. Do you have anything else to say? Or
Well, we were talking about bars, and I was going to talk a little bit.
You're drunk right now?
No.
Oh, okay. Oh, like the
California
legal,
bar,
okay,
like bar associations.
Okay.
Yeah, because
I mean, AA. No, go on.
Joe, addiction issues are not funny. But anyway, the point is, I was going to talk about the Pennsylvania bar and the fact that their president stepped down.
Oh, really? I mean, I assume this was a regular transfer of power situation where, no?
Nope.
Well, I mean, certainly it was that the burdens of his day-to-day job got so heavy that he couldn't keep full.
Nope.
Oh, interesting. So what happened?
He was charged with soliciting a prostitute.
Okay.
So this is an interesting little story. It's kind of funny.
Not funny, haha. More funny, boo-hoo.
Accurate.
Okay.
Bar association president and I think county solicitor in Pennsylvania, or now he's on leave without pay. But solicited a prostitute. He found that during the course of the incident, noticed that the woman he had hired from an escort service was videotaping him.
Not great.
Not great. He asked
Never let them videotape you.
Never let them take pictures.
And that's not just for prostitution. That is actually just a general
good
rule.
life advice.
A life advice for any encounter. Yeah.
Life advice. He did not want her to take pictures. Then she's like, "Oh, I'm not really taking pictures. I'm just audio recording." And then she wouldn't shut it off, so he ended the encounter, and then she tried to extort him for $1,000 and say, "I will post these pictures of you engaged with a prostitute online or wherever, unless you give me $1,000." He talked her down, I think, to $700 at one point, but actually just told the police what happened, and the police came in.
And you at this point you would think that, given that there are multiple overlapping crimes involved, that the one that the government would go after would be the one that was a victim-based crime, in this case, blackmail or extortion, as opposed to, say, a victimless-based crime like
soliciting a prostitute.
Oh, but instead what they did was...
Well, she also got arrested.
So it's just like everything. Just setting the incentives for not reporting.
Yeah,
is what
he was charged. Yeah. He was charged with the crime. As a result, which
ironically sets the incentives for not prosecuting blackmail or the solicitation, as that would never have come to light.
That is correct. It would not have come to light.
So the incentive structure is to have no crimes dealt with. Well done.
So he's just been charged at this sort of point in the process, but he did step down as president of the Pennsylvania Bar Association, and they've already elected the person who was elected for the next term just took over earlier than intended, and he is suspended without pay from his job as county solicitor.
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously law enforcement officials, like a government officer, breaking the law is bad and yada, yada. That said, I have a very economics-based view of how I look at the functioning of the law, and I think of it as a series of incentives and disincentives, and you're trying to get the best result for society out of these incentives and disincentives, and setting an incentive that says crimes with victims are treated as importantly, if not more importantly in this situation, as those that theoretically do not have victims. Obviously, there can be baggage surrounding the prostitution trade and sex trafficking, whatever. But sex work does not automatically mean those things, and in this instance, seems
does not
not
appear
to have.
to,
And on top of that, setting an incentive structure that says, don't report any of this.
Yeah.
All parties involved would be better off if you'd never told the police that crimes were happening. Imagine, how many other crimes do you feel are better off if the police take the stance, we'd rather just not know? I mean, that seems to be Rudy's theory of how the law works. But
this was kind of the synthesis of everything we've been talking about this episode, right? It's about crimes. It's about bar associations. Here we go.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Crazy. Anyway, so let's wrap up then. So thanks for listening. You should be listening to all the episodes. You should be subscribed to get them when they drop. You should be giving reviews, stars, writing something, lets people know that we're out there. Remember to send us stuff for the mailbag going forward. We'll start answering some of that stuff.
You can send it to tips@abovethelaw.com. Subject line, thinking like a lawyer.
Yeah, that works too. And you should be reading Above the Law, as always. You should be listening to our other shows. She hosts The Jabot. I'm a panelist on the Legal Tech Week Journalists Roundtable. You should be following us on social media. I'm at Joseph Patrice. She's at Catherine1, the numeral 1. Check out the other shows from the Legal Talk Network. And what else?
Peace.
Oh, no. No. Wait, why would you jump the gun like that?
Well, I was late in the intro, so I thought it'd be early in the extra.
Okay. Thanks to our sponsors, Noda, powered by M&T Bank, LexisNexis Interaction, and Lexicon. And there was, yet again, another thing that I've now lost track of because of all this, but you can sign off.
Bye.